Hi, it's me, Trudy, and I'm back for another installation of my conversation with Ed Dickerson about creation, evolution, and how we read Genesis. If you watch Ed's last video, you will recognize that he was both kind enough and clever enough to do it against a beautiful backdrop of my hometown, St. John's, Newfoundland, which I love so much. And I don't know whether he planned it this way or it just happened, but throughout the entire video, the old Seventh-day Adventist church, the beautiful building that I grew up attending before our congregation had to sell it because the upkeep was too much, was right next to Ed's left ear in the video, so it was pretty cool. I could almost see my house from there. Unfortunately, I lack the technology to have a big backdrop of Ed's hometown or anything else in the background of my videos, so you just get me sitting in the same spot in front of my bookshelves as always, and addressing some of the same questions, I guess. I was very interested, Ed, to note that you started off by clarifying one of my misconceptions. I had thought that while you allowed the geological age of the Earth to possibly be very, very old, allowing for a gap between Genesis 1:1 and the rest of the story, that you did believe in a very short history after that, and that all life on Earth must have existed about 6,000 or 7,000 years ago. So I'm glad to see that you corrected that. That still doesn't give me much of a picture in my head of what your picture, I guess, of the development of life on Earth or how it unfolded after that 6-day creation week goes. But I was intrigued by your statement that whatever the genealogies in Genesis are there for, they're not there to tell us about the age of the Earth. That inevitably for me leads to the question, what are they there for? What purpose do you think those genealogies serve? And along with that, I would ask about the tremendous age of the patriarchs as they're described in those chapters in Genesis. If the 6-day week in Genesis 1 is meant to be taken literally, are the 930 years of Adam's life meant to be taken literally as well? And again, I'd like to know how we square that with evidence that early humans had lifespans considerably shorter than ours, certainly no longer, and nothing close to 930 years. So I'd be interested in hearing your comment on that. But I will admit that, like a lot of the questions here, really does get us into some scientific territory that, on some level there are questions that I'd like to sit down and have this dialogue with, say, someone who is a hardcore creation scientist, paleontologist or someone like that, who studied this stuff from the creationist perspective. But on the other hand, there's a big part of me that doesn't really have the patience or the interest for that level of conversation because, as I've said from the beginning of this, I'm not a scientist and I don't really have a great mind for grasping that kind of stuff. And a lot of these questions I feel like if someone could answer them to my satisfaction, I probably wouldn't understand the answer without a lot more years of study. And given the number of years I have left to me on this earth, unless Jesus comes to interrupt my lifespan, even then I probably don't have enough time left or the inclination to spend it studying paleontology or evolutionary biology or creationist biology. Some things I think I just have to leave out there in the realm of, I really don't know about that. The central problem here is one of the authority of Scripture, obviously, and of how much weight do we give to what Scripture says, but also, of course, to how literally do we take it. Again, I'm still not convinced, although I think it's very important to the author of Genesis that we picture creation as happening over 7 literal days, each with an evening and a morning and culminating in a Sabbath. I don't know if we're meant to apply that to real-world cosmology any more than when, as I said in the first video, the writer of Revelation wants us to picture 4 angels standing at 4 corners of a flat, square earth. Again, I think that picture is very important. I'm not sure if we're meant to apply it as a literal image of the world we live in. I do agree absolutely, and I think I said this in the last video, that if you accept an evolutionary process for God creating and guiding the development of life on Earth, then you really do have to deal with issues and questions around how that reflects on the character of God and how that reflects on our picture of a good God creating a perfect world. Because a world created through the process of evolution is definitely not a perfect world. I don't know if this theological problem is bigger than the scientific problem that's posed by there being so very little evidence for a 6-day recent creation, but they're both big problems. And the fact that whichever view you take of origins, whichever origin story you believe, you're left with large, seemingly unsolvable problems, to me suggests that maybe this is a problem we're not meant to solve. Which brings me to your last point about testing truths. I asked, did you feel that it was necessary to believe in a six-day creation? You said, well, of course people can believe whatever they want, but you tossed back at me the question, should six-day creation be considered a testing truth? I think I would have to answer that with another question, and a question that perhaps is even more troubling and opens up a lot more cans of worms. And we've already got a lot of worms wriggling around here now. But my big question would be, do we need testing truths? What is the purpose of testing truths? I think that often the purpose is twofold. One, it's to denote boundaries around people, who's in and who's out, who's a good Seventh-day Adventist, or who's a Christian, or who's an evangelical Christian, because you subscribe to this set of testing truths. And of course, anytime you use a testing truth, or any set of truths, to demarcate a boundary of who's in, you're by definition using it to define who's outside, to exclude people. Also, I think we use testing truths to make ourselves feel more secure in our certainty of what we believe. And more as I get older, I'm wondering whether that's a worthy goal and how important certainty is. And I guess, for me, the real importance of this issue of creationism is that it's one I don't expect in this lifetime to find an answer to that's going to resolve all my questions or doubts. And I think through my struggles with this issue, I've been practicing how comfortable can I be with uncertainty. Is it okay to say, I just don't know? And not only, I don't know now, but I'm progressing toward an answer, but to say, I don't know, and in this lifetime I may never reach an answer. I think, at least on this issue, I'm okay with that. But if I say that I'm okay with uncertainty, what does that do to the fact that our truths give us a sense of definition as a people, or that they give us a sense of certainty and security as individuals? I really don't know the answer to that, but I think I'm content living with a lot fewer testing truths than I thought there used to be. And that takes us well out of the range of the book of Genesis, I think, but I think it's where I'm at right now.